on your network as part of our process. I think we know how to do that at this point.
Yep.
You are being recorded, so be careful what you say. Okay, recording has started. All right, so we're going to begin. I have in front of me K12 Enterprise version 3.0114 is just being released, and it's I don't know the exact day it's being, or maybe it already has been pushed into prod and your cloud, if you will, in Ohio. I know that Wednesday night is when they're pushing it into the cloud for most of North Carolina customers and so forth. Yeah. But I'm not sure. Do you know?
To test. It's in the meta test.
Okay, but do you know when it's going to go to Metaprod, what that date is scheduled for?
No, because we just pushed it to meta test last night. So we probably, after we go through this, there may be some things we want to go just look at real briefly, but then I would, as soon as Heidi and whoever, Catherine, everybody that wants to take a look at different pieces says everything looks good, well then I'd say we can just move it to prod.
Okay. All right. So I've got it in front of me, and as before, I don't expect to get through the entire list in 90 minutes. So at 11:30, I will do a hard stop. At that point, wherever we are, we'll mark, and then we'll talk about the follow-up session. Typically, we've been finding it takes 2 sessions to handle all the work orders that seem to go in one release, and I expect that to be par for the course here as well. All right, so the first one we're up on is 867, IMS staff ID. There was some very specific code there in PA that was forcing the SOC number into the staff ID. The staff ID is a generic field that we use to sort of say teacher might have an ID with the state different than their employee number or their SOC number. And so I don't know if in Ohio we use that field as well. I think we probably might. But anyway, there was some functionality that was actually just in Pennsylvania forcing the SOC number in there, and actually Pennsylvania's gotten away from using the SOC number at all, so we removed that code, which was overdue, and that's really all we were doing there. It should have very minimal effect otherwise, except for maybe some PA districts, because I think it was probably annoying to them, and now it's been taken care of. So anyway, that's all we were doing in 867. It just modified the employee table, and that's all it did. Evidently, we had some time test report totals that were incorrect. They seemed to be triggered when we had negative hours, is what I'm assuming, and then we realized the totals were not correct in that situation. So Kevin worked on that, and he fixed the bug that was causing those incorrect totals, and that's all contained in that time journal test report, and that should have been resolved. I think the way you would test it is in the prod, you would just put some negative hours in and put some positive hours in, and you'd probably see some totals that don't make sense, and then you, of course, do the same thing in test bed, and you would find that working correctly if you're interested in testing 994. So that's what 994 was all about. So some of these are pretty easy. 1073 experience table. So here we actually are continuing to sort of build in a platform to create a more generic way and a more deeper way to track the experience of employees for both for longevity and for other purposes. In this release under HR, we went ahead and created 2 new lookup tables. One's called Places of Experience, right here. Okay, how do you like that for generic data? We do have a block field. So the block field is used if a place of experience becomes non-applicable, it closes, whatever, maybe it's I don't know, whatever it might be. And then we also have, just to indicate whether that place of experience was in district, it was in our district, it was in the state, or other, and these are primarily teaching experiences, I'm assuming we're talking about, or principal experiences that we're talking about here. So that's a field that you could put in there so we can then do later reporting, and particularly reporting to the states, different states. Debbie's been in charge of this entire process, and she's been looking at regulations across multi-states to try to come to some commonality that will help certain types of reporting. And, again, others on this call may know more about what she's doing there. But and also we've been generally doing this kind of stuff often. So in P2, that might be a code we made up, but we want to go ahead and send it to the state as code 3100, and this is 4100, and this is 5100. So we're calling it P1, P2, P3, but the state refers to them as 3100, 4100, and 5100. So that's, again, typically you'll see that across the entire platform to give us that ability to talk to the state in a different code structure than what we track internally. So we have place. Yes, go ahead.
Worcester, Maryland has got that more fully. All the data is loaded in there from their requirements.
All right.
But mostly it's like county codes. They have some codes for each county in the state or each school system in the state.
Okay.
And then all the two-digit postal state codes.
Okay, good. Good. So that's a good example of what's really in this table. I'm just in our Play company. I just wasn't sure where that maybe test data exists. So I can flip over that, but I think that we believe what you just said, so I think we're good. So we have the place of experience and then the type of experience. And again, maybe you can also, Bill, talk about this as well. What type of experience did you see in the Worcester database? Did you review that one as well?
No, I didn't. It wasn't as extensive as the places. It was really very limited.
But I would imagine this is teaching, other, things like that. Probably that kind of thing. Again, how to report to the state. We have a blocked field. And so what we also did is, of course, is in the actual employee card, and I'll go ahead and bring up an employee card under the HR side. Doesn't matter where I do it. And I'll bring up Melissa, because I always use Melissa as my guinea pig. In experience. Okay, so we did a few things here. We went ahead and added these two fields, place of experience, type of experience. We added that. We also were doing something with the tenure stuff as well, so I'm going to go back to that. And I believe in this same work order we did that. Oh, actually, I think it's another work order, so we're going to get to that a little bit later. Okay, so to the extent of what we were doing in 1073 is we created those two lookup tables, and we connected them to this table here. There's going to be some additional stuff that we did as well in district or state. So I think what happens is when I go ahead and pick a place of experience and type of experience. Yeah, I can't. In district or state, I'm not sure why that's here, but I'm not sure why that doesn't fill in with the other field. I just can't remember at this point. So I think it's going to be in the other work order we're going to get to in a second. But anyway, so let me just kind of mark that off, and we'll come back to that. If anybody else knows any more about that on this call, chime in. I don't think Debbie's on this call, is she? No.
Okay, so I'm looking in the Worcester data. The types of experience is none, non-public school, or outside of education, or public school. So 3 different types.
Where is that now in the
types of experience? Right there.
So, you're talking about the codes that they have in there, right?
Yes.
Right,
yes. Yeah. So that's the type of thing that they're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, no experience or non-public school or outside of education.
Okay.
And then public school is the last one. And they're reporting to the state just a single character, X, N, or P. So.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know what this field here was. This field here all along, or is this a new field that was added?
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that. So that's the part I would have to either look at code or look at the work order to understand. So I can circle back to that, but I want to just continue moving on. 1113 is an old work order. We had one change we did this time with a improper caption when you switch to English Canadian, Canadian version of English, so that was fixed. But quite honestly, I'm not sure if, let's see, if we actually, I have another spreadsheet that gives me more details. No, it's in the Time Journal. So it was something in the Time Journal was not right. So we fixed something there so that the caption was correct when it was in Canadian English. 1132, ATRF, Alberta Teacher Retirement Fund. So we have a Canadian district, as you guys probably all know. It's our first inaugural Canadian district that just went live. Linda's been working on that. She's on this call. And so they basically we did a bunch of stuff. And I'm not sure under 1132 what we exactly did, but we did affect a bunch of stuff. I guess we're working on the workspace, it looks like.
It is, and I don't know that that's anything in there that anybody on the call would really be really interested in.
Because all the objects are all new objects, so they're all just purely for Canada. So it's not affecting any current stuff. Add export for Canadian Savings Bank export. No development required, just an export tool was used, so it was really kind of non-issue. 1159, overtime and comp time processing, look back with automatic adjusting entries enhancement. So this is Kevin's work. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but he's affecting 5 objects, so he's clearly kind of all over the place in different time journal components there. Does anybody on this call explain kind of what we're doing there in this look back provision within this comp time processing? Is that something that Allie or Linda, you guys can speak to?
Yes, the look back is actually looking back to prior periods. So if I have a late reported absence that would have affected my overtime I got on my last paycheck, it goes back and recalculates the overtime based on this new absence and either takes money back from the employee or gives the money additional, gives additional pay or comp time. So it's all about looking back into prior periods.
Right. So the example would be if the work date then, it's really driven by the work date, I'm presuming then. Is that correct? For the date worked?
Yes.
Right. So if it's negative, you might be saying, well, they really didn't work those hours. You had given them overtime that they really didn't deserve. So it's the negative that actually would take the money away, right? I don't think a positive would ever take money away, I would say.
Right. No, if they had an absent, it takes away hours they worked.
Right,
so,
right, I understand. Gotcha. So it's mainly from absence perspective.
Yeah.
That's doing that. I see. All right, that's interesting. Thank you, Linda. 1182 NC Orbit Retirement Workspace. Again, this is unless anybody really wants to talk about it, unless anybody thinks on the call we need to have more further conversation. This Orbit stuff is the retirement system in North Carolina, and we're making some changes there. You guys can read what I can read. I'm not going to talk more else about that. This next one is big, and 1201 affects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh my God, it's pages. Yeah, it's big. Oh my gosh, Bill. Seriously?
Hey, wait, you're looking at me on this?
What do you mean?
You're the one that did all this work.
Oh my God! All right. So, and again, I don't know what the appetite is for this call because we could spend quite a bit of time on this. So I'm just going to do a quick first go into the area in the menu where this all exists. You can see under financial management we have an area called student billing, and I don't know if in the 13th release. I don't think that existed at all. I could be wrong. I think this is all new in this release. I think we were working on it maybe in 13, but we kind of glossed over because it wasn't really ready for prime time until this release. It is ready for prime time. There's been a lot of revision work done, even within the building this release, where we did some early sort of analysis of it and kind of enhanced it several times, even within the 14th development cycle. So, I guess Heidi, or whoever on this call, I can go at it at many different levels. This is where it all exists. There's a lot there in terms of what it does. I can give you more of a higher level. I can go deeper. This is the ability to basically charging different kinds of fees to students and collecting cash on it and so forth, and producing statements and so forth. It's an entire sort of student billing functionality that's kind of leveraging the AR part of our system for charging fees. And the reason we were instigated to do this is actually back to our Canadian district. In Canada, they charge their students, it seems like, fees for a lot more stuff than I think we're used to. I know we are doing that across the country, but in Canada they do it even more. So I think that's why we were pushed to do a more extensive student billing functionality than we probably would have done otherwise. So again, do you want me to, and Linda, I've looked to you a little bit on this one. What is your recommendation for the group that's on this? Should we go through a decent amount of it?
I think Angela's going to probably want to hear a little bit about that. I would think. Is this something that links to the ERC, or is this a receipting?
It doesn't link to the ERC. I'm trying to think. It really does not link to the ERC at this point.
Is this something that would interface with PowerSchool, Dazzle? Because we don't have any student records in K12, so.
Well, yes, you could build pretty easily a Rapid Start package, and I believe that Holly may have already done that as part of this release, but that I'm not completely sure.
I think she did.
I think she did too. And so we have a rapid start package to once a year, once a month, whatever time frame you want. You would dump out the students out and then update them into, in essence, the customer table. They're just really coming to the customer table. The only difference is that we also have student families. So I'll just kind of open up this a little bit. And my example, only have one student family. Who was I testing with? Oh, I was testing with Red Deer. Should I go over to Red Deer at this point, you think, Linda? Let me just...
if there's interested in seeing this, I think that's fine.
I think it's something for future, but I don't think this is anything we can offer districts on, like core implementation.
Yeah, let me just kind of give a high level. I just want to give a little bit of data just to show you, just so I think the overview, a real high overview, is helpful, but it's helpful to have some data in here. Whoops.
Right.
That was the wrong button. Hold on. Why do I keep clicking the wrong button? Where's Red Deer? There's Red Deer. All right. This is the Dev Red Deer. I just want to see if I have any data there, just to kind of, because it will make no sense unless I have some data out there for you. Student billings, students. Do I have my students? No, this is a cleared out data, isn't it now, Linda? Because it's been replenished.
It has been.
I lost all my data. Oh, so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, real, sort of very small thing is that you set up the schools, the school years, and grades. Students are really just a derivative of the customer card. We just have a flag, if you will, that sort of separates a trade customer, like somebody who might be renting your gyms or something, versus your students. The student card and student list is just looking at the customers that are marked students is yes. Student families is just a way to associate, the family, and they have 3 kids at the school, or even different schools, but there are 3 kids at the district. And it's basically for statement printing purposes. We have a very nice statement that we built that can be printed once a month showing charges and what's owed. We did a lot of work in the cash receipt side to make it a very fast workflow process to bring in money. So if students are lined up at the business office at the school and they're paying money, you can process that deposit super fast, which is an issue for us. We have a charge table where you can set up all the different kinds of charges. And then, of course, in the student billing journal, when you go into that journal and you click this button called Create Invoices, this is probably the gut of the whole system here. So here you're able to bring in the billing charge, the amount, and the offset GL account, so forth. And it just simply you go through and it generates in the journal, which is really just a sales journal, 600 charges. You then review them, do a test report, whatever, you post. At that point, they're all on account, and then you're in the cash receiving side. So it's really designed for people that are having to charge, some type of fee across a large swath of students and manage that. So it's something that I don't know how schools do it today. Are they doing it in Power School? Are they charging them in Power School, or do they just not charge kids fees? I just don't know what happens in Ohio.
I think a lot of schools charge fees. The district I came from, we entered everything in Dazzle, so I can't speak on any other districts.
Yeah, and remind me what Dazzle is. What is Dazzle?
It's like Power School.
Oh, okay.
Just a different
progress
book.
Right. Yeah, the advantage of doing it here is that, we're an accounting system, right? And all this stuff has to get into the general ledger at a certain point. We are the accounting system of record. And so, I think for Red Deer, they could certainly probably do it in their student system, but I think they're used to doing it in their accounting system. So that's kind of why we were pegged to do all this work. So it's a lot of objects. It's pretty interesting stuff. Remember in test, it's a playground, so you could play with it a little bit on your own and certainly ask questions. And I agree, it's not something you want to offer because you really want to go into it as a feature that you could maybe even upsell your customers with later down the road once, we move a little bit farther down the road. So anyway, 1201, it looks very simple on the little sheet there, but actually it's quite extensive. 1204, employee experience tenure information. So this is the other thing that we were talking about. We moved the tenure date from the employee record to the employee experience record, and we added tenure-related information to support state staff reporting requirements. We created new tables, and so I'm going back to HR again. And we created tenure areas and tenure status. Okay, so we have tenure areas and tenure status. Okay, we added them to the experience table, which you saw earlier. We basically, I don't know. I guess we did enhance the employee, the ERC. So I think on the ERC we did add those fields. Let me just double check that. 1204. I have a sheet to show all objects that were affected. Yeah, so we have fields in the employee view tables that we added. So in the employee view tables, we have primary tenure date, primary tenure area code, and primary tenure status code. And what we mean by that is that we added a field to the employee's experience record. And again, I'm not in my, let me just actually switch over, sorry. I'm just going to switch back to my place I normally am in. Okay. Go back to Melissa. Go back to experience. The important field is this field right here, this checkbox. So this checkbox basically is saying to the system, this is the record that is controlling what we consider to be, if you will, their current tenure. They could have achieved tenure in two different positions within the district, but the current tenure is derived by that checkbox. So if I click here, you'll notice the checkbox leaves. You can't but only check one's record. And so in the employee view, we added the fields that says primary tenure date right there, primary tenure area code, and primary tenure status code. They now are in the view screens, and they're derived by this checkbox in terms of which record is controlling the primary tenured information. So that's one of the key things that we were doing there. In terms of other pages that were updated, this is why I want to just take a look so far. I mean, you know, oh yeah, okay. So on the employee card, actually, we removed the tenure date from the screen, but we added back, and I think it's on the K12E side. I'm just not, yeah. So what we have here now is we did have the tenure date there. It's been moved down now, and I'm not sure if anybody on this call knows, but I believe there's a package as part of the push of this new release to create a record in the employee experience table with the data that was there previously on the card, because Ben has to blank out that field because we'll remove that field physically in the next release, in the 15th release. So I'm not sure if anybody's knowledgeable about that part, but I do know that we now have these three flow fields. Basically, these are lookup flow fields, and all they're going to do is open up the record in which that field primary tenure area is marked yes. Remember, you only can mark one record. So this is where the HR people primarily can view that primary data, the current tenure data. But then, secondly, they can see the employee view screen as well. So I just wanted to tell you about that. And let's see, I think I've explained all that. Tenure areas page, employee view. Yeah, employee ERC, employee experience. So we did go ahead, and if I just go ahead and minimize this, might as well just tune this up anyway. I'm just booting up the web client now. This is the ERC because I think you guys always want to know whether this stuff is on the ERC or not. This does have an effect on the ERC. Okay, so let's boot this up. Come on. Slow today. All right, experience. Primary tenure area, tenure date, we were able to add. There probably is some other fields that are not visible, and they could be configured on. I'm not positive about that. I can go ahead and just quickly look for you guys behind the scenes. ERC, I just got the number. Hold on.
Andrew, I'm sorry if you mentioned this, but is that something that the employee can edit, or that's just edited from the window?
No, that's edited. Yeah, no, that's not right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we, that's something that we've talked about back and forth, that they could do a change and just not literally do the change, but suggest the change, if you will.
Sure. So it either went through an approval process, or it could be turned on and off by the district, whether they wanted the employee to edit or not.
Exactly. Yes. I don't.
Okay.
We really haven't built any kind of workflow changes to say, hey, I have more experience than you're showing. Let me show you what I have, and let you. I mean, the thought process is just to show it to them, because we're going to get it right, most of the time, but obviously not perfect. And so the idea is that if they see something wrong, they're just going to let you know. But building an entire workflow around just those exceptions, that's what kind of gets us to hesitate a little bit.
Yep, that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Because I think by publicly showing, people will always go, no, you don't understand me. You don't know me. I have more experience than that. That's relevant, and so that's kind of the thought there. But you can see a couple fields here. I just was flashing on there. They're set to false, and so what that means is that you really could add more columns here. We choose to, generally speaking, try to get it so that it doesn't scroll left, right. And so we try to make decisions as sort of a default nature to create enough fields out there to make it interesting. But, the tenure area and the tenure status, maybe that's not something that is interesting to them as much as just having, the tenure date and which one is your primary tenure date, at that. So anyway, that's kind of the thought process there. I will get off that soapbox, but I just wanted to kind of let you know that. So I think that's pretty much that. We did create and update the Rapid Start package to include the new fields, so that was asked for to be done by Holly, and she completed that task. So that's everything we were doing in 1204. So I'll go ahead and mark that off and move to 1208. Staff reporting. This is 1208, and let me just quickly take a gander at 1208. So this is being done by Mohammed. Okay. So 1208, staff reporting, code definition tables for employee assignments plus employee subject areas and employee grade levels. Add additional records related to employee to support standardized staff reporting in all states and provinces. So he's basically doing something in the payroll locations table and assignment codes. Yeah. So I'm not really sure exactly everything that's going on, but he says, according to this, he's doing something to the payroll locations. So let's kind of take a look at payroll locations. That's under admin payroll. Yeah, I'm just looking going, I'm not so sure what I see there. Payroll locations, added hidden fields to page. Oh, okay. All right, so they're hidden. Okay, so he's adding work location, type, and building code. And is this something he's doing for Ohio? I just don't know. Let me just see. I think he might.
No, I think it's for Alberta and for Maryland. For Alberta and for Maryland, they've got to keep track of the grades, but
yeah,
I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, so basically I see he added those 3 hidden fields to the location page. The thing is that it doesn't look like he added the fields to the tables if they were already there. On the assignment codes, he renamed page from IMS assignment list to assignment codes. So we should be able to see that probably in the HR area. I don't know. Does anybody see assignment codes? IMS assignment list. IMS assignment list.
Would that just be under the employee under assignments?
Yeah, that's what I would think.
So
Yeah.
But I know you're looking for like the base table.
Yeah, renamed
I'm not
IMS
sure.
assignment list to assignment codes. Added fields to page. It's a page called well, let me just kind of look at it. Assignment codes. Oh, it's under something called assignments.
Right. On
there's
the
a whole
employee.
section.
Yeah, whole new thing.
It's a whole new thing down here.
And I think part of what's driving that too is Virginia, isn't it? Hampton City.
Yeah, it may be. I don't know.
As well, Linda. I think this
Could
is
be.
where we're going
Yeah.
with these assignment codes and grades.
Yeah, it's a whole area in the menu, basically.
Oh, and there's the grades. All right.
Yeah.
Grade levels. Yeah, so they're trying to, I guess, make it more generic, create a separate section in the menu. Not sure I would have put it that far down, but I think it's
Subject
fine.
areas. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah, it's, on the employee card, he says, added new actions to position groups, subject areas, and grade levels. Position employee list, he did the same thing on the HR card. So he's basically saying that he's come in here and under the navigate, under positions?
Or under assignments, I think.
It's in the position group, right? It's in the position group. Well, it says, though, I'm just trying to get this. Mohammed, are you on this call? See, he was on the call, then he jumped off. He was on the call. Yeah, Mohammed, you could help us a lot with this if you just sort of listen over. We're struggling with what you were doing here. I see now where we're talking about subject areas you added and grade levels. So this is something that must be related to Maryland, Mohammed? I guess. I don't know.
I think some of this has to do with Hampton City as well.
And and Canada, we need grades, and I think Hampton City needs grade, to know what grade the teacher can teach. And
so this is like the subject area that this teacher is qualified to teach, what grade levels they're qualified to teach. Is that what this is basically meaning?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just don't fully understand that, but I mean, I get that. I mean, I guess because an assignment is really more about what they are actually doing, but doesn't necessarily say what they're qualified to do, just in a generic sense. So I guess that's what we're working towards, is the ability to say what they're qualified to do and then what they're assigned to do. So that's how I'm reading this. So anyway, so basically a lot of new tables and pages and so forth. I'm just not sure, Linda, whether this is really meant to be part of this release, or is this just precursor work to additional work that's being done? Because I would assume that as time goes on, they're trying to just genericize and have one place everything for assignments. I mean, is even the EMIS assignment going to flow into this at some point? Is that kind of the thought process?
I don't know much about the EMIS, so I can't speak to that. But yes, I think it is. We're trying to get that all, to make sure we have all the fields that we need for staff reporting.
Right. I think so as well. So again, it's something that you guys can look at. Again, one of the areas that you'll see is, again, under administration, you're seeing this entire section. Furthermore, you're also seeing grades, and you're seeing grades and subjects as a new area underneath underneath there. I'm not sure exactly, again, that work location type, and building. I'm just not. It looks like now I am reading. He did add fields there. Actually, the fields are added according to this by Debbie herself. So she added the fields in the table, and then we added the fields to the page. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go off of 1208, but again, if there's some additional questions, Dan or anybody that's over on the Ohio side, Chris, whatever, or you guys at Meta, if you're looking at this and you're not sure, let us know. I think one of the key persons that's going to know a lot about this is Debbie. But again, you can certainly send an email to me, and I'll then begin to ask her and get her involved in the discussion. All right, payroll check reprint, add pay location code and class code. So we have that as standard on the real checks, but I guess it wasn't on the reprint, so I guess this is what we're doing there. So it just seems like that's all that's about, but somebody must have requested that.
Well, we put it on line 1 so that it shows through an envelope or anything. Isn't that what that is?
Oh, okay.
So if they fold and stuff checks, they can.
Well, this is the payroll check reprint, though. I think
this
the
is
one
the reprint.
that's
Yep,
from
sorry.
the ERC, they wanted to be able to see the pay location and class code.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I think that's what this was about.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure why. Why would we care if you're on the ERC and you're bringing up your own paycheck? Why do you care what location you're at? I think you know where you're at, don't you? I mean, maybe
not.
Maybe not.
Maybe you move around a lot or something. I don't know.
Where am I? Who am I? Right.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. 1340, W2 Magnetic Media, we modified the report to accommodate Maryland reporting requirements. There was a change that came out, and we were having to accommodate that, so that's been taken care of. Thank you. That's good. NC Bud, Allie. Export problem with vendor has a comma in the name. Gosh, who would have thought that? So we had to take care of that and strip the comma out to make sure we wouldn't get it to upchuck any longer.
Sort of messed up that CSV file, didn't it?
Well, those damn on commas.
I bet that caused some confusion.
Yeah, didn't know anything about that, but now I've learned about that. It's good. 1361, remove remit to and leave related columns that are no longer needed. Remove remit to related columns in table 23 that are no longer needed as a result of 1250. So we had a bunch of remit to fields that moved into our remit to address in the 13th release, and typically in the next release up, we go ahead and delete the field for real. And so at that point, that's what we're doing here. We're cleaning up. There was a bunch of cleanup on that one. Let me just see. What was the number on that? 1361. I'm just going to look at the objects and see if I need to mention anything else. Wow. Oh, shoot. I don't know, Bill. I ended at 1208, that spreadsheet you sent me. I don't know. Maybe I didn't print all of it. I don't know what happened. So I don't have any more that I printed, so I can't tell what objects. So I'll have to get that fixed. But anyway, so I think we were just finding a couple other places where we had left some fields on screens and so forth, and we were fixing some of that as well. So a lot of that relates to us moving the leave group code down into the job, and that also was stuff that we were dealing with. So I think we fixed a bunch of stuff also kind of inside this work order, but I can't prove it because I don't have the object list any longer. 1363, enhance the print posted purchase order report. That was a nice piece of work. Mohammed did that work for us. So what we're doing is today we print a purchase order that uses a bunch of setups, from purchase and payable setups. It's pretty well been worked on for a long time, but we hadn't actually gone back to the history part of the system where you can pick up a posted purchase order right here. And so in the posted purchase order, when you clicked on print, it completely prints a different report altogether. And that report had been left in sort of its original sort of, if you will, dumbed down form. And somebody asked, hey, can't that report have the same functionality? Shouldn't it actually look and feel the same as what the original PO looked like when it was not completely finished and moved over to the posted tables? And so that's what we were doing. We were basically, my guess is Mohammed probably just saved as the other report and just changed it to work off the posted tables, and he was done. So that's what he was doing in 1363, and that's, I think, a good important thing to get done. Changes to deposit page 10140 provide the ability to add attachments to the fact box on deposits. Again, I don't know if I did that or not. I don't remember that exactly. But what we were doing there is in cash management deposits, which we've done a lot of work on. And so maybe we should go through some of the deposit stuff that we did, Linda, because
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
It really is stuff that might be a little different than what you're used to. But anyway, in here we added the file attachments. I don't think that was there before. You now can, if you have, let's say, a bunch of backup that you can then either scan or you already have as a file, you can attach it to the deposit and it will become part of the posted deposit record. So once you put it here and you post, when you go to posted deposits, which is here, those file attachments will then be there. Okay. All right, so back to...
Andrew, did that flow to the web client? Or is attachments available on the web?
I do not think we added it to the web client, but I could be wrong. I just don't remember. So
I didn't see it the other day, so I'll go check again under this version.
I don't think we did. I didn't think that it was not thought to be something. Yeah. So that could be, if that's important, there's no reason why not. We definitely could add it here as well. But we did not think to do that because nobody, I think it had come from more of a back office request, but it's certainly something that could be done. So in the deposit, I think the major thing that we did, a couple things. One is that when you're applying to customers, let's see if I can find a customer that's worth the darn here. Whatever, that's just a weird thing. We also had an issue with the description. I don't know if anybody noticed it, but basically it was bringing up the description of like this, I think. I think it was that description was showing there. Anyway, it wasn't the customer's name. This is actually the customer's name. So we're doing that. That's one thing that we did do. Probably the other thing that we did really was the apply entry. So the apply entries were harder to get to. You had to kind of like do a drop down to get to it. Comments wasn't there, so that's been added. The print receipt was there all along. We added that in a couple releases ago. But we just made it easier to get to. If you notice, we don't have drop downs now. We just have simple buttons to click. So we're just trying to make the system simpler, more intuitive. When you click on the apply, and I got to put a document number in there. And I don't know how far I'll be able to get right now because I don't know if I have anything open or anything. Well, I have some open payments for some reason. One of the things that we did, a couple of things we did, we have a set to applies all. This is a new option that we just added, and that is a Shift F12 for ones that like their keyboards. But if you do that, the system goes ahead and applies to all of them simultaneously. So that's, again, nice. If they're paying everything that they owe you, you can just click that one button instead of having to click on one line, go down to the next line, next line, next line. So that was kind of a pain. The other thing that we did was related to student billing. And again, it's designed to only work with students. So unfortunately, it's not going to work unless you're doing it with a student. The idea here is that you forgot to bill them for their activity fees. You can go ahead and quickly charge them for activity fees and then receipt the money in like within just a couple keystrokes. So it's a way to do a quick charge to a student and then apply the money in. So those are the things I think mainly, Linda, that we were doing there. I don't remember anything too dramatic beyond that. I think the button here will be useful. After that, I'm not so sure.
Well, I think I don't think they had the print receipt functionality before. I mean, maybe in the last release or two, but that was fairly new too. That they can actually print, take money from someone, put it in, and print a receipt for them.
Right, which I'm doing right now. Receipt for federal tax purposes. That's again, it's signed and so forth. Thanks a bunch. This is all set up in the sales receivable area, all the stuff at the bottom. Furthermore, there are some options on the print receipt button that was controlling that. If I just say receipt and I say thanks a bunches, I'll be grammatically incorrect. You'll see that it's immediately changing.
And I think for some of the schools, I think Ash in North Carolina would like this because they were printing a report or something instead of printing receipts. So.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. Also, in the receipt, we can do a comment. So if I say a big bribe, it's always my favorite. I love bribes. Not that I ever get any bribes, but if I did, that would be kind of fun. Just kidding, by the way, on that one. So it's open. And a big bribe shows up down there like this. So, and it looks slightly different, depends on how you're data entering, whether you're data entering GL accounts or to customers. I would invite and test that you work both with customer payables, let's say you run in the gym to somebody, as well as just taking cash in and code into a GL account, using comments, using print receipts. Of course, apply entries only applies if you're doing to a customer or vendor, and so forth. So these are all things I think you should play around with. And again, the student side, to get the student side to work, you have to set up some students to at least test that to get that quick charge to work. Okay, so that kind of explains sort of things that we were doing. It's a little bit beyond what we were doing in this work order, but if I get to another work order, I already talked about all that. I can skip it. 1398 purchasing additions to printed PO for tax display requested by name and document status. I don't know really. I guess this relates to just the taxing amounts that show up on the printed PO when you are doing sales tax. And we really don't do that in Ohio. We do that in North Carolina. We do it in Canada. So we just need to make sure that those POs were faithful, if you will, to the data that we were seeing in our fact boxes to the right, I believe. Is there anybody else who wants to add anything to that? Or is that basically what we were doing?
That sounds good.
Okay. Get receipts page improvement, permit more than a single line on the get receipts page and allow the GL strings to be editable, apply across multiple school locations. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one.
I'm not sure that's quite working, though. That's the one we need to get with Roanne on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think we did make,
some changes.
We did make some changes. The idea here was that one of the things that we noticed that I think we did do, Linda, is that if I have a purchase order and it's, let's say, 3 lines are encumbered, and let's say 1 line comes in, and where we're talking about is really in the self-service system under finance, under purchase receipts is the area that we're really talking about. So if you remember correctly, the limited users can't really post a receipt. They can just sort of submit it as being received, and it has to be posted in the back office because of Microsoft's limited user requirements. So what we decided to do in the initial go-around on this was that once they brought a PO up, and in my example with 3 encumbered lines, if they said I received line 1 and they submitted that, then when they went back to the list screen, that PO was just kind of off limits until the back office processed it. So let's just say the back office was slow and I received in line 1, and then line 2 came in. Here's now a second UPS package for line 2. They couldn't go back in and receive line 2 because they couldn't get control of the PO again because that first line hadn't been received. And so that's the part, in essence, that we changed so that now they can bring it up and at least receive in on the second line or the third line. So I believe that's now been improved. But what I think Roanne was doing, this district in North Carolina, which was confusing to me, was that they were producing a blanket purchase order at the beginning of the year and encumbering a very large amount of money against an account string for buying just miscellaneous purchases. And then people would go to Walmart and buy something, and I guess, was it Walmart? I can't remember where it was, but they would come in and they would be happening so fast that they couldn't really make sense of this functionality. And so we're going to have a conversation because I'm not so sure this was not meant for that type of scenario. That's really better done on a zero quantity PO, and I think we just need to think about whether we really need to truly show that they've received in something versus just invoicing it. So we have to just talk about that a little bit more. But that's what we were doing in 1406. I still think there's some rooms for improvement in this area, so I think you'll see more from us on this even in the next release. But that's what we were doing in this release. 1409, reporting authority transaction details report, ability to print the SSN or employee number enhancement. So that's pretty straightforward. It's just somebody asked us that ability, and we added it to that report explicitly. The ACH file created by the electronic export payment batch report adds an offsetting debit detail entry. Not all banks want this record. I know that Mohammed's been working in this area recently. Also, the offsetting debit entry that's created does not follow specifications for the CTX format. I think I'm not sure about that one. See the work order document. So I guess we made some changes. I'm just not sure what controls whether we create the balance. Oh, it's a new field in the bank card. I see. So he's telling us. So in the bank card, Mohammed has added a new field. And
yes, it's on the bank card.
Do you know what, is it on the posting tab?
Transfer.
Transfer. This card's getting a little unwieldy.
Create unbalanced is used for.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So for AP only, this doesn't apply to payroll. If you click that, it won't create the unbalanced. It'll create it unbalanced, which really simply means take the money out of my bank account and pay all these people, And then the bank knows that the sum of that is what they're going to take from your account. The offsetting entry is just an explicit direction to the bank to say, take that money from my account. And so some banks kind of imply it, some banks, don't. You're kind of telling them, put money in these accounts and balance it with money coming from my account. Others just figure that out on their own. It kind of bewilders me that they can't just ignore that record. They don't want to pay attention to it, but that's beside the point. 1421, calculate overtime hours, bug fix. Correct the issue where calculate overtime hours is not recognizing hourly jobs for salary jobs when the time crosses fiscal years.
Hey,
So that's
Andrew.
an issue that we were having. Yeah.
I'm sorry, do you mind going back to 1409?
1409, yes. That's the, let me bring that report up then. Is that something you guys asked for?
I don't know, but when it's in regards to that reporting authority transaction details, I think we skipped it by accident. If we could just go over that again.
I think that was actually a Rowan.
It was,
request.
yeah. It's the reporting
was it?
authority transaction details. Reporting authority transaction detail. There's an option here, I'm assuming. Let me see. I don't know. No. Mohammed, do you remember that? Oh, okay.
There you go.
Oh, okay. So I guess the idea is that this is a report I might be able to send directly out to
Yes.
some type of reporting authority is the idea.
Yeah, they send it to their vendors with their payments, and they did not want the payroll control one because it actually had the earnings on there also.
Right.
And this is just purely the deduction. So particularly for things like garnishments, they didn't want to show too much of their hand.
No, that's great. Thanks, Allie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good too. That's good. Okay, good. All right, so 1421, I kind of glossed over that one, but that's just a bug fix for crossing this multiple fiscal years. Okay, I know, Mohammed, you did this one. Add the vendor invoice number to the LU purchase order and purchase order no quantity. That was a very simple change. The idea initially when we built this is that these are purchase orders that a limited user can directly enter and submit, and it'll go through approval processing, and then the last approver will be a full user, and then the system will encumber it. But then, we would have receiving and all that on it and so forth. I think particularly when it comes to the no quantity one, they may already have the invoice in hand, which of course I always find ironic, that they already have the invoice in hand and they're doing a purchase order. To me, that's what a check request was invented for. It was invented for, I still need to go through approval processing, I still need to do budget checking, but invoice is in hand. And so to me, my answer would have been just send them to the check request because that's exactly what it was built to do. But, whatever. So they're in the purchase order one, but yet the invoice is in hand, which from a business perspective is kind of backwards. But then, so in the case where that is the possibility, we've added now the vendor invoice number, and they can go ahead and fill that in as they're entering the PO. This is a limited user we're talking about. So, although that seems kind of backwards to me, it doesn't hurt to have it there. It's not going to cause any kind of problem, any confusion. So what we mean then is on the self-service system when we're in a purchase order, let's say no quantity purchase order as an example, which I think is where you'll typically do it, we now should see the vendor invoice number on the screen, and there it is, and the person can just go ahead and get that in, and that's good. So now it's there it is. Yeah, good. And on the quantity-based PO, let's just see where Mohammed put it. Make sure we agree with his location. Yeah, looks fine. It's on the general tab where you want it to be. You want to be right in the front there. So that's cool. So I'm not sure why we're doing that, but I do agree that it could be useful for some types of districts that want to use the system in that way. This other one is web services enhancements. We were doing some work in a connection to the HRMS system for North Carolina. Yeah, just not sure. Do we need Linda or Allie to talk more details? Is there anything that has a generic application here to everybody?
No, none.
Okay.
It's all about putting data into SunPack for HRMet. No, you don't.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so deposit import and donation receipts. Yeah, let's. We already talked about several of the stuff, but I did forget about the import. And the import, I believe, is on both sides. I believe it's on this side as well. There's an action now here called import. No, maybe not. Maybe I made that up. I thought it was here. Lines, yeah, it would be. No, it's not there. All right, let me go to the Windows side. Maybe we didn't do it here. The import was done. I think it was considered to be a back office functionality. That I'm thinking about it, but maybe I'm wrong or not. But there should be an action now called Excel import. Okay. And of course, I deleted my file a second ago. I just had it on my desktop just a little bit ago. I know there's one, I think, right there. Let's see if that works. All right. I think it's going to blow up on me. So it's probably, I guess, was done in the Canadian company. It's wrong fund. But let's look at the file format. Anybody see a deposit here? Oh, there it is. Yeah, there you go. All right, so the format I think we have in some attachment, hopefully that you guys have, is the format for this. I know we published it, so it's written down, and so this has the ability of bringing in data for a deposit from a CSV file, and it all drops in at this point. One field I forgot to talk about is the payment method code, because I didn't discuss that. So that's important. So the payment method code, if you are using our deposit system and you are receiving particularly credit cards, you can go ahead and set up a payment method, if you will, of MasterCard, Visa, Amex, whatever you want, different options here, and you can go ahead and indicate this as your data entering the data. The reason this is important is that the way that MasterCards and Visas get posted to your checking account, generally for that day, they're going to basically be summed, and you're going to get a comprised, if you will, debit to your bank account or an increase in your bank account for the total in the MasterCard Visa, the total for Amex, total for Discover, whatever. So by having the ability to do this, we change the posting routine so it automatically creates multiple, if you will, debits to the general ledger for the sum of each payment method. And so that will automatically, in essence, get it so that when you do your bank rec, you're in sync with what your actual, what's happening in your statement, if you will. So that was something that was important to Red Deer because they take a lot of credit cards, and I don't know who else takes credit cards, but so it's just a very minor little change, affects the way it debits the cash account, and of course creates the bank ledger. The bank ledger is the key for the bank rec. So that's kind of the work that we were doing there, as well as the import. Again, if you do not have the template handy, Bill can provide that to you. Just let Bill know, and he has the specifications for the import functionality. I think everything else I've talked about in 1428 at this point. Yes, go ahead.
This is Catherine. I would definitely like that import file from Bill.
Yep. Bill? Bill's going.
Yes.
I don't know where it is. No, there's in 1428 when I closed that work order, I gave a specification in terms of what the CSV has to look like to import the deposit. So if you can maybe put that in Excel and shoot that off to all of us just so it's clear. I know it's probably in I just don't want to go open up my emails right now. I know you have all that. But if you can make sure that Meta has it, and as well as anybody else on this call, they may want to. I don't know if is 1428 one of the ones you attach to the closing email? I mean,
yes.
It probably is. Yeah.
It is.
So you probably just want to just make sure I'm just not sure if that's been sent to Meta, that email, but if you can make sure they get that 1428 one, I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Annual STRS workspace. STRS is Ohio, is it not? This is you guys. The annual STRS workspace should work in a similar manner to the per pay STRS workspace with regard to how the employee percentage rate is being determined for the accrued contributions calculation. Change it to use the employee contribution rate that is valid as of the last day of the fiscal year or 1 day prior. The contribution percentage is found in the employee rate table. So again, I'm not sure what was going on there. Has anybody else on this call had a chance to take a look at that, test that? It can explain a little bit better in terms of what was going on in 1429.
Well, I haven't looked at it, but what was going on was it was instead of using the prior period rate, it was going ahead and moving forward and using the current year's rate. And so that we had to get, when it was calculating the accrued amount, percentages. So it was acting a little strange because it was looking at because STRs is currently, increasing their percentage 1% on the employee side. So it was still going in, it's coming in at 13% instead of at 12%.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, that's something that we need to make sure is working. That'd be a good thing for somebody to be testing with, possibly in the test workspace, before the test server, if you will, before we push this to production. But it isn't one of those things that, is going to cause any damage. It just might not work if it goes into production, but it's certainly something you'd want to know is working.
Yeah, I think we're past that period now that we're in September, into September, going to October, but certainly want to make sure it works going forward.
But can't you trick the employee rate data around whatever cutoff dates you want just to test to see if it's working?
Yeah, you could just simply go back to July or August pay date and run it and pull it in and make sure it's calculated.
Well, because in test, you're in playland. Why not?
Right. So and that's what I'm saying. We still need to make sure it's working so we can run into this next year.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We don't want to find out next year all of a sudden with no time to spare, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. 1430 speed is, again, something that's mainly used in North Carolina. Workspace process function, fiscal year date crossover issue. So, again, I'm not going to discuss speed. I don't think it's used outside North Carolina. Linda or Allie, is it?
No.
Okay. All right. But something was being worked on. Missing company logo on check, a bug fix. The payroll check form is omitting the company logo when printing. Logo should appear in upper left corner, so that was just a bug that Muhammad took care of for us. 1432, payroll check reports, new bank account setting to print payroll location only on mail to address line. I think that's the one you were thinking of, probably.
Yep.
Okay, so is that something that is kicked off by a setup somewhere?
I do think it's a setup, but I don't know that for sure. I haven't looked at it.
I'm trying to remember. Darn.
Well, I see there's a bank card. He's referring to a bank card. So let's just kind of look at the bank card again.
We set it for Roanne, and
you forgot about it 5 seconds later.
I promptly saw their smiling faces.
It's a bullion value on the account table. So yeah, it must be a yes or no check on the bank account. Yeah.
Bank
table.
account.
Yeah.
Print.
It's right here. Print pay location on address 1.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. So that's what you were talking about. And let me ask you a question though. And that's the case. Are they actually never sticking these things in the mail? They're just inter-office mail?
Right.
Right. They put the check in a folder sealer envelope. So once the check's in the envelope, they can't tell, then which school they need to send it to.
Oh, I see. They're not a folder sealer. It's actually being stuffed into an envelope. Is what you're
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's kind of what the gist of what 1432 was. I mean, there's an additional part which says need additional variation of how, where to print the payroll check routing information. This variation must show as part of the mail-to address, but must comply with USPS standards by including the name line. Okay, I think that's just talk about why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yep, make this additional feature. Yep, okay, fine. Okay, I'm with that. EMIS. All right, so EMIS workspace, add 4 missing columns to the EMIS archive line table. So we had added some fields and never updated the archive line table, so we were just doing that. And then modify the archive process to populate from the same field in the EMIS processing line. So I'm not sure why that wouldn't have happened automatically with the transfer fields function, but anyway, most likely it was already fine. Probably the data was there, it just wasn't on the screen. So anyway, Mohammed, I'm sure, fixed that. Overtime rate calculation, rounding issue. Currently, total earnings is being rounded to 2 decimal places prior to divide by the total hours, which is inconsistent, or rates to be calculated which is causing inconsistent overtime rates. You need to go out to more digits to get it to be more mathematically correct. So that's what he was doing in 1435. Again, you can see there's a lot of work in our automatic overtime calculation functionality. It's continuing to mature. Good you weren't on the bleeding edge, but it's something that maybe Ohio wants to start taking a look at a certain point. State unique ID workspace load and export Maryland enhancements. So again, we're working on Maryland, and so we're working on getting that operational. Wasn't quite right in Maryland, so that's, I'm assuming, was all Kevin's work. And anybody have any comments on Maryland on that unique ID?
No.
I'll just go past it. Method step for life insurance benefit. This is what you're asking for, correct, Linda?
I don't know. Life insurance.
Well, it's a new method step to pull the annual salary for all jobs.
Oh yeah. That's what. Yep, that was mine. Yeah, just so, method steps. Yep.
Yeah, there's two method steps that we ultimately added. One to pull, I guess, the estimated salary for all jobs with the FTE considered, and then another one to do the same thing without the FTE considered. And she was using that in a calculation of a life insurance benefit for Canada. But again, there is two steps that went out there, and they now, I guess, we could actually show the method steps. Let's just do that real quick. Method steps.
Linda, if you have instructions on how to pull that information, that'd be great. I know some districts that might like to use that here in Ohio.
To use the new method step?
Well, yeah, how that method, I know it looks like he's going to show us that, but is it a report then, or how does that look then to the district?
No, it's part of their calculation of the deduction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's used, so she's trying to, in one step, move into taxable amount, and then there's a chunk of code that says go out and grab the annual salary from all non-block jobs, not in consideration with the FTE. It's just it's basically going to apply the FTE, if you will, to it. So if the standard pay rate is 60,000 and the person works at 0.8, it's going to put into that 48,000, if you will. Where the one above here is going to ignore that and pull them in as grosses. So basically grade and step, it's 60,000. It's going to be 60,000. And not having the FTE considered. She needed both of them at different times. I'm not sure if you ultimately used them in your final iteration. She was going back and forth. Oh, you did? Okay, good. So she's using both of them. And I'm highlighting from this point on, this is all the stuff that was added in the recent 14th release. And so I'm going to skip around a little bit because since I'm here, I might as well. I'm actually not going to explain workers' comp in its entirety. I'll come back to that. But this is a method step to accrue workers' comp. We added an entire workers' comp capability in the system that's a little bit, it's better than what we had before. It's it's an easier way to get workers' comp to actually work in our system. We talked about this one. And these guys we added as well. There wasn't any division, and I think Linda needed to do some division. So now what we can do is say the adjusted amount is the amount, whatever is in the amount field, divided by the temp field, or the amount divided by the adjusted field, or the amount field divided by taxable. And adjusted is the result. That's what we're going to update. And so we're calling it amount div temp, amount div adjust, amount div taxable. I know that Melissa said, well, but you should say adjusted, but it's a little inconsistent maybe with some of the other ones, but it's kind of hard because you don't have many characters to type in there, so you kind of have to try to make it sound somewhat reasonable. Anyway, so I just want you guys to know that those were added as well. 1440, Time Journal, K12E map. What is the K12E map used for, guys? Linda?
That's the import of time or leave into the time journal or the leave journal.
And that's a generic piece of software that can be used in any state or province to basically take an input file and map it to the time journal. Is that what that is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So starts of it. Yep.
Okay. When you say it's the starts of it, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's not as fully functional as it's going to be, but it does work. I think they're using it actually in the last place they did in Ohio to get the ASOP file in.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So when I go out to Worcester and Maryland, I should be directing them to this as well.
Yes.
their ASOP.
And
Yeah,
there's a document I think I might have sent to them.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, the last time we was working on the import on that, something was working, when it had a docking type, when we tried to pull docking in, it wasn't working. So that's all Kevin did was fix that to where the docking absence code would work. So it's
good.
It's working well there.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Good. Yeah, I don't. If you guys want a separate training on that type of functionality, then just ask. I'm probably not the person. I might want to watch it myself, but I'm probably not the one to provide that training. But it's something that if there's some specific training that we need to put together for that, wouldn't be a bad idea. 1443, fund list page and chart of accounts page, add report to state field is an available field. So again, it's just more on the actual list page. It was on the card, the fund card, the chart of account card, but it wasn't on the list page. And sometimes it's nice to have it there just for review. You can't edit it there because it's a non-editable screen, but you can at least see it, and that's what we were doing in 1443. Just put that out there. Insurable hours calculation is still not right according to Linda, previous to this call, and we're going to meet after this call. But that's just something that we have to do in Canada. It's a very Canadian kind of thing, and it's very isolated and only affects Canadian payrolls. I'm not going to discuss it, but Linda and I will fix whatever the problem is. Correct the date being used in the URS error log, and again, that's something that related to North Carolina, and we went in and fixed that bug. So I'm not going to get into details about that. Same thing for the next one. I'm not sure about what this one is. Correct the error check where it's ignoring other ethnicities if the Hispanic indicator is checked. So I'm not sure what was going on there, but somebody must have reported something with that. And
that was part of the UID reporting for North Carolina.
Okay. So did Kevin fix that or Muhammad?
He did. Okay. Yep, it was Kevin. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. A lot of North Carolina in here. It's all North Carolina. We're going orbit. We got DPI. These are all very specific North Carolina functionalities, which I'm just going to go right past. More orbit. Okay. All right. So let's go into 1454, suggest vendor payment bug. Suggest vendor payment was not assigned a document number when using the create new document number per line and starting document number. And that's, I think, because some of the changes we made earlier with the remit to address, and that was resolved. So I believe that functionality is working where we do want to assign a number in there, and I guess it just starts with whatever number you put in the starting document number and just assigns. Like if you put 1, it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Yeah. So is there any comments anybody wants to have on that? Because I know a lot of you guys worked on some of these pieces here. Anything? Okay, good. All right. 1455 looks like a lot of writing here. What the heck was going on? But again, it's all orbit, it's all retirement, it's all North Carolina, and I'm going to go past it because I don't think the crowd here is 100% wants to hear that. 1456, 1457. Oh, come on, Bill, really? 1458? That's unbelievable.
Bill, talk to Allie.
No.
She's the one that loads up all these work orders.
Oh,
Guilty.
God, jeepers. Employee veteran status. I know that we were having some issues with veteran status where it needed to be more soft-coded. I would look at that myself. Has anybody else had a chance to take a look at that? So we have an admin area now for veteran status. Is that what we have? Yep. So we have a code table, and we changed it. I think it was just before. It just had like a drop-down where it may have had like Vietnam vet and different kinds of veterans, I guess, whatever. And maybe we need to know what kind, I guess, for that. Is it the Vet 100 report? I don't even know which one report it is.
Actually, I think it's for some of the staff reporting. They need to have it. I think maybe Maryland has to have that.
Yeah, that request came from Worcester. They had a specific list of veteran statuses, I guess, that they tracked, and I think there was maybe 1 or 2 that were in the native predefined list. So we changed the field
to be a soft-coded field
to be right.
Table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Versus the option field.
So did we? I guess
it's on the employee card.
Yeah, no, I know that. I guess how are we going to update that when we push the system? If people have got values there, and you've got now a lookup table. Do we create the lookup table values equal to what the option table had and assign them ourselves? I mean, I just don't know, what you do at that moment. Where is it? Do you know where it is, guys? Is it on the...
It's on the personal fast tab.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Right. So this was an option down, drop down. It had like Vietnam vet and I don't know, whatever. Civil War, whatever. I don't know what I had on there, but
So drop your list down, see what you've got.
Well, I've got nothing
you
now,
have nothing.
and I'm in debt, which means that normally he would have already cycled something if we had given direction. So I'm just kind of mentioning, Bill, to you that you may want to check into this because you can't just push this and blank out values that clients have. You know what I mean? Because they're going to be pretty mad at us. So I just something we want to make sure we don't miss. We might need a package. Is what I'm trying to say, a SQL script. So I just wanted for 1459, I would just check on SQL scripting for 1459. 1460 timesheet issues. This is stuff that was all property related. I'm assuming. I'm trying to think. I had the ability to cancel a worksheet. Yeah, this is all stuff I worked on, right, Melissa?
For Ohio, yep.
Yeah. So I do know that we were having a problem with the default job option. You guys reported. So all the stuff came from our meeting with Linda on your side, guys, and then we made a bunch of changes to the system. We definitely put when you retrieve in the timesheets, we're pre-checking for bad jobs and stuff and giving a much nicer message now. So I know they were getting messages where they didn't even know what employee it was. So that was all fixed. I know they had a problem with the default job. We didn't realize that. That was just a bug. We fixed that. I think we did more than that. The employee number filter to resolve that. Move employee sheets to archive function. Using just the ending date, not the starting date. That's certainly better. But we also, I think, added a functionality, and this is, I think, the key part, and maybe we showed you this already, I just don't remember, but in time administration, you now have the ability to go into, we added a function called mark manually processed. So if for some reason there were some struggles with that timesheet and they really processed it sort of offline, you just needed to go move to the archive heap. We were kind of in sort of a, in between no man's land. We couldn't kind of get it to go away that easily, but yeah, we still wanted to keep track of it. We didn't want to lose it from historical purposes, but we didn't want it to actually go into the time journal. So this mark manually process was the ability to do that. And if I click on that, I think you have to have it, I think, in an approved status, Melissa. Is that right?
Yes.
So it has to be approved, and then you're basically saying, it's been approved, it's valid time, but it's been manually taken care of. And a lot of this related to the fact that Linda had hung up stuff that we weren't able to retrieve in. And a lot of that was other kinds of bugs and stuff. One of the bugs that we found is that the operator, the users were able to create like a zero detailed line. They were able to come in here, and let me just go into, this is the line, what am I doing? They were coming into this screen here, and they could put in, I don't know, 08 a.m. to 08 a.m. and 0, and I don't know. I can't remember how they could do it because we've eliminated their ability to do it now at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and discard it. But they were, unbeknownst to us, getting lines in here with zero quantity. Well, what's happened is that we were retrieving and processing the only ones that had quantity, and those zero lines were just still staying out there, never being completed, and that was the signal not to go ahead and let it get archived. And so that's why we had a lot of timesheets just sitting out there. So we kind of realized that was fixed in this particular work order, this 1460. We also did a bunch of SQL scripting out in your live environment to get rid of all those zero records. But again, the code that completely prevented it, I think we did advance some of this stuff, but I just can't remember completely. But we certainly know that you could possibly have a couple transactions out there with zeros in there that we do want to make sure are gone, particularly after we load this new code, because at that point we are 100% convinced it's not going to allow any more zero records. So So then I think the key two things was just to make sure these zero records were gone and never going to be recreated. Giving better error checking on the retrieve in case we had a bad job, lets you know with nice friendly error message, and the ability, I guess, is the third thing, to manually mark things as processed. There is more documentation on this that we do have, and so we certainly have another email that explains a lot more. So I do think that you guys should get that completion email, Bill, if you can make sure they get the 1460 completion email. That's an important one for them to be seen. So I'm going to leave this one unless there's any other questions you guys have.
No, we really super appreciate that. There's like a huge sign, a small round of applause. So thank you on your help with timesheet stuff.
Well, we just, some of this stuff we just didn't realize until we had that one call, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, this is stuff we can fix easily. So it's just kind of like, you just don't realize it sometimes. 1464 was the workers' comp system that we put in under administration. Now we have a new table called workers' comp, where you would put in a code, a level, plan start date, rate, and annual limit. So these are kind of classic workers' comp. This would be, like people, your maintenance people would have to be separated from maybe your teachers and admin people because they're obviously going to get hurt a lot more. Well, they might get hurt a lot more. Let's hope they don't, and so forth. So this is the sort of the workers' comp code. We then added a field to the payroll job. I'm sure of it. Called workers' comp code. There it is. I don't believe it flows to the employee job. No, it doesn't flow to the employee job. Let me just double check this. It doesn't really say so here. But it doesn't flow to the employee job, which means that it's really saying that everybody that has this payroll job has the same workers' comp level. Then you saw that method step we just added. So literally all you'd have to do probably is just add that one method step. I think it's all you need. It's possible you want to test for earnings, make sure they have earnings in the batch. But actually, I don't think you even would need to because it's going to multiply. No, you wouldn't have to even do that. So I think it should be that one method step, and you'd be good to go. I think it does the sign control for you automatically. And at that point, it's going to do the limit setting. It's going to calculate everything. It does need to know when the plan starts because not everybody's worker comp policies follow the fiscal year. They could follow, let's say, a 9/1 to 8/31 year. So it needs to know that. That's why we had that plan start year in there. And at that point, it's just a normal control. It's an employer control. It's an expense and liability. You're paying it. The district's paying on behalf of the employees as a requirement in most states in this country. And so it's a fairly simplistic, easy to use, easy to set up workers' comp system connected to an employer control. And it defaults to the value you set in the payroll jobs. Real simple, real easy, but I think should hit the spot pretty nicely. So anyway, that's there now. I don't know if you guys need to accrue workers' comp, but workers' comp is something that districts are paying. Whether they need to accrue it is something that you need to ask them in your discovery. All right, so I'm going to leave workers' comp unless anybody has any questions. Okay, I'm going to move on. 1465. Contract paid filter on check stub report. Remove the contract paid field from the reprint because that was confusing people, I guess, because they were thinking it was as of today, but really I think was, I just don't remember. I can't remember, but we decided to remove it to try to eliminate confusion just because, you're putting an old check. From what perspective is that data, and it's kind of confusing people, so I think we removed it. It shows up in the ERC, as we all know. I mean, we all don't know, but some of us might know. So when you come in here, what you really want to do is have your employees get their contract status, if you will, real time. So we would say to them, go to Home, in this case, and go to Payroll Jobs, and click on whichever. So I'll just go, I don't know what my data is going to look like, but anyway, so here's where the data would be. So again, I think it's going to be different depending on what kind of job it is. So I think I have just terrible jobs here. Well, there's an example of one. Yeah, so that's probably good. So we really want to encourage them to use this system to get their contract, not a check reprint. And I think that's kind of pretty obvious, but hopefully everybody agrees to that. Payroll K12E test report. We add number of days paid. So we've done a bunch of work in there. I would advise in test that you run the payroll K12E test report again and look at the differences in there. So again, we're doing new things in that report. That report continues to grow. It's been grown 100,000 times, it seems like, at this point. So we're in the K12E test report. There's a new option, include totals by employee location, gender, non-zero lines only, non-zero lines only. I'll just include GL distributions now. All right, so let's just go and see what we got. So we got the normal first page, normal summary page. Looks like another summary page to me. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking at. Oh, this is totals by location. I see. So this is another section now, which is saying this is the location for, this is the totals, if you will, for deductions, earnings, and so forth for the high school, the middle school, the admin building. It's all based on location. This is the default location. I'm assuming it's the employee location is what it's using as the criteria. So the other thing you can do, I think, oh no, I thought, yeah, so that's it. Okay. Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine. So that's what that's doing there. Again, my example's terrible because I only have one location in play right now, but certainly if you run a real test and look at what that looks like. And again, you don't have to have that section. It's a checkbox. Make sure if you don't click that checkbox, you don't get like any blank piece of paper. It's the kind of things you're looking for. Make sure it makes sense. Okay, 1469, company information, add district identifiers. So we're basically just adding fields. Again, we're trying to genericize our staff reporting. We have a lot of little tables around, and we're trying to just come to more a simplistic way to indicate stuff. So in the company information table now, we've added these two fields, state reporting unit number and national reporting unit number. So, and we're moving away from all those individual, because we had the same field over and over and over again for Ohio, different than Maryland, different than North Carolina. So as much as we can possibly see that they're all asking for the same basic field, let's put it in more of a generic place and remove it from the specific tables that support stuff that's very specific. This is not specific, this is more generic. Orbit, there you go. Allie, back at it. Never ends. She's at it again. And I guess we're at 11:31, so to respect everybody's schedules, I think I'm going to stop there and just put a line and pick up right there on 1472, which I'm certainly not going to talk too much about, but that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and put a line there, and we'll just go ahead and break at 1472. Just a preview. I was like, wow, we have a lot more in here, but we do have some interesting ones that will come up for sure. So I definitely think it's all good stuff to continue to talk about. I'm just looking at any particular stuff that I want to point out right now. No. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look too bad, actually. But still stuff would be interesting. I guess Heidi or Catherine or Angela, I'm looking at calendars now, or I'm going to look at calendars. So I guess I'm going to stop presenting. I'm going to go ahead and